Thank you for the great introductions. I'm happy to be here. And with regard to the mission of your MBA program, actually one concept from my own MBA program that I've learned that really sticks with me, that aligns with your mission, is a Quaker saying of doing well by doing good. And quite honestly, that's how I carry myself forward from that experience, and it's helped to guide and inform me as I've made decisions. So there are three questions I'm going to ask that I'm then going to answer through this presentation. And those three are, why should a nonprofit like social media? Number two, how can a nonprofit leverage social media? And three, what is social media's impact on fundraising? Why should a nonprofit like social media? Well, let's start with the strength of storytelling. We all listen to stories, we're guided by stories, we're informed by stories. We as a culture and we as people learn through storytelling. A couple of great quotes about storytelling. Max Dupree, a leadership author, has also said that stories help us learn and remember who we are, where we have been, where we are going. Stories preserve our sense of community. And actually this last concept is probably the most key to understanding how to market with social media. It's about engaging and interacting with your community. Supporters, both donors and volunteers, respond to storytelling. It's the story that gets people to get involved, to donate, to react. Storytelling with social media is a great kinship. It's a great marriage of two concepts. When it comes to social media, the premise, the philosophy, the ideas of social media is very different than traditional marketing. Whereas in marketing, it's just a one-way monologue. In social media, it's all about dialogue and community and interaction. One of the key concepts with social media, one of the key strengths is your ability as an organization to share your information, but more importantly is the ability of other folks who are in your network to take the information you put out and reshare it. Just in terms of the impact of social media, a recent survey indicates that 61% of nonprofits are spending time on social media compared to a year ago. Right? And then if you look at down here, the way by which people give to nonprofits has changed as well. So in 2002, only 4% of people made donations online. 10 years later, 65%. Right? Now that's a combination of factors. One, it's a combination of awareness. It's a combination of technology being available now that wasn't then. But regardless of the reasons, it's a huge opportunity.
Do you use the term, or familiar with the term, content-based marketing?
Yes.
That's part of the last.
That's what a lot of this is, and really when it comes to a nonprofit specifically, what you're selling is the good that you do. And the best way for you to do that is through content, through sharing. I'm going to talk about how to do it, is sharing what you do through social media in a compelling and engaging way. So let's actually talk about that. So how can a nonprofit leverage social media? Well, you've got to start with your strategy. And you have to determine the degree to which you want to get involved, the platforms you're going to use, how you're going to do it. And the three main pieces of a strategy include the people. So who is going to manage your social media? Who is in charge? What is the hierarchy? Who has to approve something? Who writes things? Who are the actual boots on the ground people? But also you need to get the buy-in of the people who either run your organization directly or those who are on the board of advisors, those kind of things, because you need to have support from the top down in order for it to be successful. You have to establish your policies. What are your typical responses when something doesn't work? How do you process information? Who owns the information? With regard to the platforms, these are the number of people that use each of these platforms. Facebook recently crossed over 1 billion users. The population of the United States is roughly 300 million. Facebook is more than 3 times the size of the United States. Even if 20% of those accounts are people's cats, right? That's still a lot of people who are actively using Facebook. YouTube really is a huge boon to any organization, but really for nonprofits, because people love video. You can tell your story in video in a way that you can't always tell with words. People love pictures as well. The percentages of response drastically increase when you use a picture with a post. There are so many tools and there's so many possibilities, you could spend all day trying to keep up with them. And then just your luck, the one you like goes away, right? Pick the 2 or 3 that you feel work the best for your organization. More importantly, figure out where the people who you want to reach are and use those platforms. Start with those and then see how it goes. Content management, in that category, I include two very pivotal things. One is a blog, the other is a website. Now, most organizations might have both, might have one, might not have the other. Make sure that it is the hub of your social media activity. The great thing about a blog is that if you are able to add content to it frequently enough, it provides you with great, as I like to call it, Google juice. Your search engine optimization improves and increases because blog software is very search engine friendly. And the more content you put out there, the more search engines are hungry to eat it. It also allows you to very easily add new content and manage the content that you have. One way that a lot of organizations have cut down on cost and increased their flexibility and their options is to use what's actually called a blog site, which is a combination of these two. It's a blog backend with a theme overlay. Actually, my own website is exactly that. It's a WordPress blog, and then I purchased a theme that then converts the blog to look like a website. Years ago, I used to design websites for clients, and I'd have to do it in Dreamweaver, and it was all manually done, and it was like, every change took forever. And the benefit of this is it really facilitates the process. It reduces the need to pay somebody else to do it. You might initially need to pay someone to get it started, but once it's live, it's all you. For campaign management, there is an ever-increasing number of options for you. The most popular one that I know of and that I have used is Hootsuite. And Hootsuite and all of these other, Buffer, Sprout Social, TweetDeck, they are all interfaces, basically, centralized locations at which you can manage all of the content on all of your social media platforms. They're usually fairly modest in cost, $9 a month, $10 a month, maybe $20. They're not hugely expensive. They're definitely things you would need to budget for. But the great thing is it allows you to go into one place and update things in multiple locations. So it's efficient. But it also lets you track what works and what doesn't. In addition, it lets you schedule content. So if you want to have posts throughout the night or every 3 hours or whatever it is, it allows you to set that up in advance. The only thing I caution about having scheduled posts is that sometimes if there's some incident in the world at large that is of a certain significance and you're posting links about, some silly event or something, it looks to be like you're out of touch with what's going on. If you have planned content to get scheduled for a certain day and that something in the world happens that supersedes it, you can go in and just turn it off, which you can. So you just need to be mindful of that. So how can a nonprofit leverage social media? Well, you share your story. One local organization that I really like is Direct Relief. I went through and looked at a lot of their social media profiles, and this is a picture from their Twitter account of somebody packing up supplies. This is a great thing to do when you show behind-the-scenes kind of stuff. People love that. One of the NBA players who was on Twitter was doing this ridiculous thing where he would take pictures of his teammates sleeping on the bus. And that's ridiculous, and who cares? People sleeping, but people love that stuff. People love the behind the scenes. People love to see what you're doing and how you do it. Stories are so important that I went back and found a picture of this gentleman. His name is Joel Ben Izzy. Joel Ben Izzy he literally is a storyteller. That is what he calls himself. When I was growing up, grade school age, he was the storyteller at my temple, my synagogue. And every Sunday, he would come and tell us these amazing stories, from biblical stories or life stories. And he just had this magical way of telling a story that I still remember him. And he made such an impact that a friend of mine who I grew up with, who also went to that same synagogue, I saw a picture of him on Facebook telling a story to a group of high school kids. And what didn't you know? He's wearing a hat, just like Joel was. Oh, I never got that from. Right? So stories stick with us. One of the most interesting ways of telling a story that I have come to learn that some of you might be aware of is by a gentleman by the name of Simon Sinek. And he has a really interesting TED Talk out there in which he talks about what he calls the golden circle. Now the golden circle, as he's written here, it's actually, if you've noticed, it's exactly how I've constructed this presentation. So it's all about starting with why. Why do you do what you do? What is important? What drives you? Just as earlier you were talking about what the basic tenet of your MBA program is, that's the why. Why are we teaching it in this way? Well, because we believe in social good. and social welfare and social responsibility. Then you talk about how, which is what we're doing now, right? You talk about the specifics. So first you want to know why you're doing, what is the reason?
It's a really worthwhile TED Talk.
It is, right? And it's almost one of those that you're like, yeah, how did I never think about this before, right? He really crystallizes it, because what he says is that people don't buy what you do, people buy why you do it. And I think that makes sense in any organization, for-profit or not, but I think it especially works in a nonprofit, because in a nonprofit space, what you're really, quote-unquote, selling, as I've said before, is the possibility of making a difference. So again, that's a great TED Talk I recommend. He talks about leaders, like Martin Luther King. I think he said something like, Martin Luther King had a dream, not a plan, right?
Right.
Right? It's like about inspiring people to something greater. And that really works for a nonprofit, right? I have a plan. I have a strategy.
I have an outcome.
I have talking points right here.
Learning.
So what is social media's impact on fundraising? Well, as I mentioned before, an organization I feel is doing a great job is Direct Relief. One of their volunteers just turned 105 years old. The best post for this I saw, they took a picture of her, it's a couple weeks ago, renewing her driver's license at the DMV. She's like walking on the driver's license with the certificate, like, wow, They have a great Twitter presence, and they have a lot of content on YouTube as well. So with regard to which platforms to use and those that have the most impact and the most return on the investment of your time and effort, Facebook by far is the leading candidate. So 98% of organizations surveyed recently have a presence on Facebook. Twitter is next. Now, I don't know, how many of you guys have had any experience with Twitter? So keep your hand up if it's a positive experience. Okay, now put it down, and then raise your hand if you're like, Twitter, what do I do with it? All right, so yeah, that's a lot of people. Usually people's first tweets are, now what do I do? Or what is this Twitter thing? Twitter is a unique experience. It's a unique opportunity. I have personally found a unique way to use Twitter for networking, sharing knowledge, getting to know people. I've actually really had a lot of success with it and enjoy it. But it takes a certain mindset to use Twitter, especially because it's so limited in what you can say and how you can say it. But Twitter is a great way of linking to your other content because it's out there. And a lot of times if you search an organization or if even you search yourself and you have a Twitter page, that's one of the first things that comes up because the content is so frequently updated. But again, you can update content from any of those tools that I talked about before. YouTube is the third most popular with 66% of organizations using it. And again, YouTube is important because it helps you tell your story visually.